Assalamu alaikum. So I had a bit of an old man rant moment this morning. Was having my coffee and a video. Sometimes I like to open up YouTube and just see what other people are saying about things. And so there was a video by a YouTuber. He's mainly in the field of music. His name is Rick Beato, a very famous and very popular YouTuber. And what I like about him is that he tends to he gives interesting perspectives on the music industry. Does really interesting interviews with musicians, and then he does these things where he'll break down, break down a song or whatnot. He's very knowledgeable about like music theory and whatnot. So I find his channel actually really innovating. So anyway, he had this video that was talking about the demise. I think it's called "The Reason Why Music Is Getting Worse." Right. That's the name of the title. And I'm going to play just a little snippet here in just a second. But what I really found interesting is that he was saying that one of the reasons why music suffers today is because it's too easy. It's too easy to consume, right? So the advent of the advent of Spotify and Apple Music and all the streaming services, it makes it really too easy for people to completely just drink somebody's catalog of music, especially say somebody like, I don't know, any major artist that's been producing music for a while. You can consume what they're doing like in the blink of an eye. But what I wanted to do was just he articulates something that I found really interesting as to why I think more and more Muslims don't really seriously study Islam. Right? Why is it? I think partly because we live also in a time, in a day, in an age in which it's really easy for everybody to have access for everything. So, for instance, like Imam Suhaib, he and I were once commenting that if the things that are available today were made available to us, back when we first began our journey, our heads would have exploded. That you can go and find, endless hours of lectures and this or that, and yet people will still come and ask the most rudimentary and mundane questions. So anyway, I'm just going to play the little piece here. Hopefully the audio comes through.
Act 2, music is too easy to consume. So this is the water faucet in my kitchen, but imagine this is streaming on Spotify or Apple Music. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, but what's going on in the stream of water is all of the music that's on these platforms. Now imagine this is one artist's entire output, their entire catalog. Might be The Police, could be Billie Eilish, could be Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. And then this dropper is each of their songs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I just did a whole record there. And eventually you exhaust their whole catalog. When I hit this and I start the stream, the music has very little importance if you think about it this way. It goes from the faucet, down the drain, out to the sewer, where it's recycled again. Except in this case, the music is not recycled like it is through the sewer.
So the point is, now obviously music is a little bit different, where it is far more of a passive experience. I mean, you put on the music, you sit back, you listen to it, and so it's more of a passive experience. Learning, really has to be more of an engaging experience. Now, I'm sure there are, real music lovers that would say, well, listening to music can actually be in a very same vein, and that's probably true. In the best forms of music, you engage it somehow, intellectually, emotionally, and whatnot. But the part where he says, like, you just kind of flip on the faucet and this entire, work goes down the drain, I feel like because I'm often asked, why don't you do more videos, or why aren't all the things that you do at Middle Ground, why don't you put them all up, online? One part of that is just a time constraint. It takes a lot of time to make videos, especially if you want to make them look decent. And I'm a one man band, so I'm the camera guy, I'm the talking head, I'm the teacher, the baker, the candlestick maker. So I have to do everything. So part of it is that. The other issue is that I see people putting up videos that have real content of which people could learn, and those don't seem to get the higher play counts, where people that put up a video about Salafi versus Sufi, or something that just transacts in some kind of controversy, that's what gets lots and lots and lots of views. So I feel that just dumping one's entire work online, I don't see where that actually brings a lot of efficacy. And a similar attitude I've seen in the community, just towards learning, period. I think that's why we increasingly don't see masajid that have a resident imam, somebody that's going to really teach. Even the activities around the masjid, education at best is really almost like a form of entertainment. I think I had used the word Islamotainment, years ago, and I still feel like to a great degree, that is. And so, if everything is put up online, and I've said this before, and I know people, they got to make a living, but maybe there's some way to reconsider our approach to living in the digital age, in which everything is available all the time, and yet nobody seems to know anything, and nobody's learning. Certainly, when I was a new Muslim back in the early '90s, there was nothing available. Number one, there was nothing. There was no online. Online didn't exist quite yet. So the access to information was limited, and I think that was a good thing because it made you more appreciative of what you could actually get your hands on. Teachers were obviously even more limited, and so there was a greater sense of deference to your teachers and wanting to really learn. I'm still astounded by people that will attend a lecture. They have no pen, they have no paper. They have their phones out, and perhaps they're taking notes on their phone, but I would probably be willing to argue that they're probably also just simultaneously checking their social media. So just when I saw this video in my feed this morning, and I listened to it, it kind of resonated with me in the same kind of. Seems like everybody's suffering from the same malaise. Everybody's suffering from the same symptoms in the modern age, which is, how do we really give appreciation to things? And that one of the quickest ways to, to kill appreciation is just, simply drown people in mediocrity. So, not to say that, not to say like for, all the works of the ulama, all the works of the scholars that are available, obviously that's not mediocre, but still the atmosphere around which those works are engaged, being able to just download virtually every single book that has ever been written that is extant, is probably available online. And yet, what is the benefit that is coming from those things? So, it's a bit of an old man rant about what's going on with our culture, and it's global at this point. I think increasingly using monikers like East or West or Eastern or Western are going to get really kind of obsolete, because it's a global culture where we're at now. But what are the changes that are going to make people more appreciative? What can we do to, really be more intentional and engaging, and just, get back to a spirit of really wanting to learn. And I think that's the difference between having such, almost a tidal wave like abundance of access to things, is that in many ways it kind of, I think it stunts a person's not just their creativity, but their curiosity. Because I get asked a lot, how did you learn Arabic? How did you do this? How did you do that? Well, first off, I'm just a curious individual. That is very hard to teach a person. It's hard to teach a person to be curious, but I think you can create environments of which that might foster or grow out of people. And I don't think that you're going to get a lot of that, unfortunately, when everything is available. Now, I mean, obviously, I don't think there's an easy way to just hit some sort of reset button and take everything away, but perhaps there needs to be a new strategy of, how to engage abundance. Like in the same way we live, I don't think anybody in their right mind would want to trade the abundance of the Western world. Again, an increasingly obsolete term, but nobody, I don't think, would want to just do away with the abundance that we have in the Western world in terms of, say, food, right? If you look around to those areas in the world that are food insecure, I don't think the solution is to go back to that. Nobody wants to starve. Nobody wants to, sure, you can turn, like as Rick showed, you turn on the faucet and the water just runs out. Well, if you've ever been or seen a place that has water insecurity, they don't have clean water, I don't think anybody would want to trade one for the other. That being said, I think one of what we're seeing now, like in the health crisis in the Western world, I think if they're, or those that have adopted, even those places now in the East that have adopted a so-called Western lifestyle, is that if you don't figure out a new way to live with that opulence and appreciate it, and to regulate your access to it, it'll become a problem for you. Especially when you then mix it with other, human ambitions like greed, which, is a common human ambition and a common human endeavor. So, why is it that, we have this glut of corporations that make food that is trash and that's horrible for you, and on and on? Is that there has to be a way, you don't want to starve yourself, but certainly you have to have a different way to engage food, so that you're more appreciative of it, so that it's healthy for you, that you make more discerning choices. So I think there's no doubt that another reason why people are not perhaps learning or as diligent in their studying is just because we're all bombarded today with so much, right? We're bombarded with entertainment, and it's nice to relax. We like to watch a movie. We like relaxation. But when you are drowned in an endless buffet option of, this show or that show, it just sometimes it can become a difficulty in itself of how to filter that out, and not always go for the lowest common denominator, and not study. I think too, also perhaps there needs to be a different way that we caricature, or we kind of portray what is study. Study is, people, when they just, maybe it's because of the way that their experience that they had when they were young, when they're going through school, that they're still traumatized. I think that's why they say most adults, again, like in America, most American adults, after they finish, if they go to college, will never read another book again the rest of their life, cover to cover, which is like absolute, tragedy. That's a really disparaging, or a despairing rather, statistic. So, maybe it's also in the way that we conceive of study, and that when we think of, leisure, I think we've been trained to see as leisure as, you sit on the couch and you turn on the TV, and that is your leisure. We don't tend to see leisure as things that require, effort, whether that is, working out, or study. And I think some of the people that we find most inspiring, like that are, physically fit, it's that they get a type of joy from working out that isn't only like endorphins, but it's almost like leisure, right? And so if leisure is only about being passive, I think that's, that could be a problem as well. So just when I saw this, I wanted to share it. Yes, I'm at that age now where I think I'm overly inclined to have old man rants about things. And so Rick is probably about 10 years older than me or somewhere around there. But we're from that generation that I think where we have very strong, almost tactile memories of analog experiences. And so when we're thrust into this world, which increasingly takes that away, it just kind of brings the old man rant out of you. But try to think of some ways to think of studying and learning your deen as leisure, as enjoyable, even though there might be some parts of it that are frustrating. I know not everybody is adept at language, although I feel like maybe there's an overemphasis on the Arabic language, especially if we want to, if you want to go and become an authority about Islam, then yes, there's no doubt you have to go and learn the Arabic language and become very proficient at it. Just like if you want to become a doctor, there's no way around going to medical school. But for those who are just simply trying to enrich their lives, I think that mastery of the Arabic language is not essential. I still think at some point, if for no other reason you want to be able to read the Quran proficiently, and I think most Muslims, if we're honest, we usually feel good if we are able to achieve some level of proficiency in it. But again, not wanting that to be the egg that we put all our basket, or the basket we put our eggs in, such that if we don't achieve some, monumental mastery of the Arabic language, well, then we might as well just throw in the whole towel on the study of Islam as a whole. I think that would be a great waste. That being said, too, I'll end on this. I saw there was a video. This guy goes around and he stops people and he asks them, people that look like they're physically fit, right? So he stops this guy on the street who was, pretty yoked, and he was like the kind of silver fox, right? White guy, he was jacked, and he asked him, "How old are you?" And the guy's like, "I'm 58." He's like, "Wow, man, you're 58 years old. You look insane. What's your secret?" He's like, "Well, there really isn't any secret." He said, I've been working out for about 45 years. It's like I've been going to the gym since I was, basically in high school, right? I started going to the gym, every day, and that's it. He said, I get asked this question a lot. He said, no. He said, yeah, like I take a few supplements, my diet. He said, especially at 58, my diet has to be a lot more regulated than what it used to be. But he said, actually, it's just what you're looking at is like 45 years of just day in and day out dedication, meaning that he might not have been that genetically gifted. And even if he was taking some gear, I think that's one of the myths of anybody that has never actually done bodybuilding, is that you can take all the gear in the world. Number one, if you don't have the genetics for it, it probably isn't going to do as much as you think. And then two, like if you don't go to the gym, nothing's going to happen. So what I mean by that is sometimes we feel like, well, I have to be this special person, or I need this special object in order to transform me right into this thing, versus just giving yourself a chance to do something over a long period of time and then reaping those dividends. So I think even an average person that has average or even slightly below average language capabilities, if they worked at, say studying Arabic or whatever it was, I think they would probably see some pretty decent results after 20, 30 years. But if we live and are conditioned in a time of mediocrity, which is to only expect, mediocrity, things that are mediocre, but also that grafted onto a sensibility of entitlement and instant gratification, that's really like a toxic combo. So give yourself a chance to develop and seek out teachers, carve out some time in your life, and try to. When we say make it a priority, we're not saying that you have to quit your job and move to Mauritania and abandon your family. But by making it a priority, it just means that you're going to stay committed to it, even even if it's like the Prophet ﷺ said that أحب الأعمال أحب الأعمال إلى الله تعالى أدوامها وإن قل. That the most beloved things that a person can do in terms of devotion, like acts of worship to Allah, the most beloved of those to Allah are the ones that are done consistently, even if they're not always of the greatest frequency. So, consistency trumps, not to say that you shouldn't have momentary spurts. When you feel it, like, okay, I really feel it tonight, I'm going to pray tahajjud or whatever that it is, or I'm going to give some money to charity. Those are great. And of course, those over the long haul also, that's the wa'in qal, right? That's even if they're not done frequently. So, so this is the end of my old man rant. I'm going to go have my coffee, inshallah. And I hope people won't be offended by that, but rather just take it as some sincere advice, and try to work on cultivating a sense of just appreciation. I mean, we live in a time where we do have access to all the great works of the scholars. And it's not that they have the answers for everything. We still have to figure things out on our own, but still having access to all that, it is, a tremendous blessing to have those things. We just, inshallah, have to appreciate them. So, all right. Assalamu alaikum.